Cartoons, TV shows, and movies sometimes get so popular they inspire a bunch of other shows, but sometimes they take it just a little bit too far. Stay tuned to hear about a knockoff from a Disney classic we all loved as kids. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to The Things. Now let's check out 10 knockoffs of popular kids shows from around the world. Guildford Girls. Okay, this one is a pretty weird one, but since plenty of 90s kids and teenagers watched Gilmore Girls, we just had to add it in. It's one of the few shows on our list that's actually from the good old USA, and it's so exclusive, you'll actually want to see it just to see what it's like. Let's be honest, Gilmore Girls was an iconic show every 90s kid grew up on, but it looks like it inspired a sneaky ripoff show that actually existed somewhere in the USA, more specifically at Hannaford supermarkets in New England. Obviously, they had to be sneaky about it. It's definitely not as witty and relatable as Gilmore Girls, but apparently it was a pretty good drama. It featured Amy and Evie Guilford, a mother-daughter duo that were actually a mother and daughter in real life. They're played by Laura and Lindsay Glenn Cooper, or should we say were played, because there's not a lot of information that could be found about this show since we have a feeling Hannaford supermarkets got in a lot of trouble for it. Or maybe they didn't after all, considering it's still a well-written drama, even though it's a clear Gilmore Girls knockoff. But nobody can replace the quirky original. The Legend of Lucky Pie. This one comes from China, and we have a feeling you'll quickly be able to tell which show The Legend of Lucky Pie actually rips off. It was produced by a group of Chinese artists that managed to make it come to life without any funding or studio environment, which is pretty impressive. After the first short animation was released in 2015, the series got fully funded through Patreon. But that's when people also started realizing that it looks strangely similar to Adventure Time. The show follows the adventures of Lucky and Pie, and the majority of the characters have the exact same eyes as the Adventure Time characters do. Many of the characters pretty much look the same too. Even some of the lessons the characters teach their viewers are similar to Adventure Time. But there seems to be no real beef between the creators of the two series, because Stephen Wolford, one of the storyboard artists on the original show, said it's still pretty cute for a knockoff. It's been described as a cheerful cartoon, although the animation itself was criticized. Considering this knockoff originally had zero budget but still managed to make people talk about it, we say it's definitely a success. Doggie Mons. Next one comes from Brazil, and just by the name, you can probably guess which TV show it resembles. Even though Digimon already got a lot of critique for being a slight knockoff of Pokémon, Doggie Mons takes it to a new level. The project was originally produced by the independent studio, and in a matter of 4 years, the producer managed to finish one episode and leave 2 others unfinished. The story focuses on a 12-year-old boy called Alex, who finds a mysterious diary written by a professor. The diary holds some secrets Alex wants to resolve, so he flies to Rio de Janeiro, where he meets his cousins. As their quest continues, they enter a portal that transfers them to a planet of Doggie Mons, where they meet Digimon-like characters that resemble dogs. These dog-like creatures also have the power to transform into another creature. Some of the Doggie Mons include bee dogs, drag dogs, green dogs, and so on. Needless to say that if you're a dog lover, you'll absolutely love this show. Too bad it only has 1 episode, though. The 3 friends are then on a quest to find the professor that wrote the mysterious diary, as they believe he could bring them back home. To be honest, this sounds like it could be a pretty good show. Tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. Now, this one's just hilarious. It also comes from the good old USA, and seriously, the title is just way over the top. It dates back to 1994, but the story suspiciously resembles Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers at the same time. The show aired in 1994 in an attempt to be as big as the Power Rangers. But of course, things weren't as peachy for this long-titled show. The storyline follows 2 teenagers that are able to transform into giant superheroes. They're there to stop an emperor that wants to take over the Earth and then dominate the universe. One of their amazing superpowers are their tattoos that flash to alert whenever the evil is moving. Actually, now that we think about it, this could also relate to Harry Potter, even though the first book didn't come out until 1998 in the US. But back to these tattooed aliens. They're known as Lori, Gordon, Drew, and Swinton, and each of them have unique personalities and talents that are essential to the team. They all have their own individual weapons, and they each transform into an impressive superhero. Oh, and also, their mentor was a houseplant. We're telling you, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles storyline is somewhere in there too. The Lee. When Gravity Falls fans first caught a glimpse of the Totter Stan show, The Lee, a lot of questions were raised. Sure, no one everyone was happy that Gravity Falls ended. But none of us were really ready to jump the ship at any possible knockoff just yet. The show starts with Vili, the main protagonist that gets sent to the Republic of Totter Stan to learn more about the Totter language, which, by the way, is not the same as Russian language. The kid is not supposed to come home until he learns the Totter language. It features similar characters, and you can clearly see Seuss in the grandma, Wendy in the siren, and Uncle Stan in the tree version of this knockoff. You can even find Mabel. The animation, the characters, the story, it's all too similar to Gravity Falls, and fans definitely took a notice. But not only fans, even the creator of Gravity Falls, Alex Hirsch, was aware that this was a clear copyright infringement of the original show. No one's sure what's been done since then, but the Russian version is now extremely hard to find. So yes, this was indeed a confirmed knockoff that seemed to have a pretty big consequence. Hawk the Slayer. There can only be one Slayer out there, and her name is Buffy. But this UK show isn't even a Buffy the Vampire Slayer ripoff. This story has plenty of elements that tie it to Star Wars. Even though this could be a never-ending debate between the fans, Hawk the Slayer is actually just a movie that's been released back in the 1980s. But there seems to be a few notable similarities to Star Wars. One of the biggest knockoffs people seem to point out is, of course, the magical flying sword, also known as the Power. Not quite like the lightsaber, but definitely similar. And then there are the elf and the dwarf, which look strangely similar to C-3PO and R2-D2. Of course, the promo poster for Hawk the Slayer also pretty much resembles Star Wars. Voltan's dark clothing also looks like Darth Vader's, as well as the mask that belonged to the Phantom of the Opera. The movie itself wasn't that bad and was pretty well received. But of course, the resemblance is uncanny. We're still not over that whole Buffy the Vampire Slayer title resemblance, but we really do recommend watching this movie, if for nothing else, for the old school filmography, which is just absolutely brilliant. Yokai Watch. When Yokai Watch first came out, a lot of people accused it of being pretty similar to Pokémon. Admittedly, since Pokémon was so popular, a lot of shows and games wanted to use the same concept, but very few got away with it. For example, Digimon was also considered a Pokémon knockoff. Yokai Watch aired in 2014, long after Pokémon was already established. But the characters are still very similar to the creatures we love in Pokémon. But in a huge plot twist, the so-called knockoff actually became really popular in Japan, and it was surpassing Pokémon in TV ratings. The franchise released an anime series, along with a game and 4 movies. But if you look at the characters, it's very clear where Yokai Watch got its inspiration. We're pretty sure you can find similarities with just about any Pokémon character there is, although we have to say that coming up with brand new creatures is probably extremely hard, so similarities are kind of expected. But since the franchise became quite successful, it's actually excused from having the title of a Pokémon knockoff. Personally, we still prefer Pokémon, although we can imagine kids today really going for Yokai Watch, as it's definitely more relatable. Sunday School Musical. While this is not a show, it's still so shocking we just have to include it in the video. And the production team really did put on a brave show by even daring to create something remotely similar to High School Musical. The title alone also makes us think of The Breakfast Club. This mockbuster has a similar title and a similar promo poster, but the actual storyline is pretty different. The story talks about teens that go to church. When they realize that the church could be closed because of the lack of funds, the teens take it upon themselves to raise money by entering a song and dance competition. The group is led by a talented performer, and because of it, they win a cash prize that eventually saves the church. We can actually think of a few movies that are quite similar to this, including the 2003 movie Honey that addressed almost similar issues. But is the 2008 Sunday School Musical worth watching? Well, based on the Internet Movie Database ratings, no, because it definitely didn't get kind user reviews. But if you need a story that won't go over your head, you should definitely give this a go. However, it could never be as iconic as High School Musical. Chop Kick Panda. We're adding this one in because Kung Fu Panda was also a TV series, and apparently, it inspired a brand new animation that actually started at the same same time as Kung Fu Panda, Legend of Awesomeness, but only one of those was well received. Chop Kick Panda just didn't sit well with a lot of viewers. This ripoff belongs to Canada, and the storyline pretty much matches Kung Fu Panda. It talks about a fat and incredibly lazy panda called Zeebo, who wants to become the master of martial arts. Of course, he can't get there because he's just a dojo cleaner. But when an evil tiger wants to take over the kingdom, Zeebo takes it upon himself to stop him by training as hard as possible. Does he win? Well, you'll have to watch the movie to find out. It's worth noting that this is not the only Kung Fu Panda ripoff, as critics also pointed to Brazil's Little Panda Fighter that was also exactly the same. Sorry folks, there can only be one awesome panda out there, and his name is Po. If you love the original movie, be ready to have strong thoughts about Chop Kick Panda. But we still have to give him props for being so brave to release the movie. Well, just you wait. You'd never think Tom and Jerry could get ripped off, but it actually did. Sort of. Well, Just You Wait is an old Russian cartoon that follows the adventure of a wolf that's trying to catch a rabbit. The animations don't really feature any dialogue and are full of instrumentals, just like Tom and Jerry. Just like Jerry, the wolf's plans also always fail. But at least it makes for a good episode. The series was pretty successful and are still watched in Russia today. But after the 1990s, more and more people started noticing the similarities between the wolf and the hare and our favorite cat and mouse duo. After being confronted, the director actually admitted he borrowed a lot of inspiration from Disney, but he claims he didn't even see Tom and Jerry until way after the first Well Just You Wait episodes were made. According to the Russian version, it focuses more on real-life locations and situations. Could it be just a coincidence, or did the director draw inspiration without even realizing just how much of the concept he actually copied? We'll let you be the judge. Let us know what you think about these knockoff shows in the comments. And that's all for our video. Don't forget to subscribe to The Things and tell us how you felt about this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.